Just give me something. Just give me something to start with. A little rest is fine. I'll give you many hours, a minute at a time. I don't care where you came from, but I want you to know I may have to start over. I'm learning as I go. When I'm done, I'll be the one to take you down the road. We'll leave behind our troubles, and everyone will know.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, July 27th, 2026. And I still love hearing that song. I've told you before, I made that intro song, give me something to start with. And it's a great little song. And I think it tells a great story. Now, the original version of that, as I've said, is the Model A. I did a version with showing my grandfather's Model A. And it just fits so well. It just fits. So, welcome to my channel. Welcome to my live stream. As I said, it's Monday, and I do these at 7 o'clock Monday nights. I was trying to do it briefly on Sunday nights, but I realized it just wouldn't work, so I'm just going to stick with Monday nights. We have a great group of people that show up here, and typically we help each other answer questions. Now, I'm the moderator in a sense, and I encourage you to be involved. As I do this, I also mention that I specialize, kind of, in cars between about 1955 and 1980. So, long time ago. And, it's funny that I think about that now, and it's like 1980, what was it? There's a weird little glitch going on here. 1980, that was like 10 years ago. No, that was a very long time ago. So anyway, that's what I try to work on. And my focus in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years has been Mustangs. So I've worked on 65 and 6 cars, 68 and 69 and 70. So I've covered all those years in various builds that I've done. And some of those I've done here in my own garage, and some we did at the body shop that I used to be a partner in. And, you probably all remember, one of the most popular builds was the Brooklyn Pony, which was a 66 Mustang convertible that I basically hand built back from parts. And I've continued that tradition in a sense, like the Cobra Jet, again, that was basically built from parts. And I'm doing something similar with the 68 Fastback known as Fangled. As I go through these, and I learn as I go in some sense. So like, I have a great background in sheet metal work. I have a great deal of knowledge of how these cars are built. Having, as a kid growing up, my dad had a junkyard, so I took these cars apart all the time. And so I really have a good understanding of how they're built and how they were assembled. So the other cars that I've done, the convertible, the light blue Mustang, if you remember that, the Mystique Mustang, and of course Jade and the Cobra Jet. Also at the body shop, we did a 70 Fastback. We did another 68 Mustang and another 65 Mustang. And those cars have been pretty much built back to original style for the most part. Now, there was some things I did on the Cobra Jet. I put in mini tubs. Didn't really need to, but we ended up putting them in. And once you do that, it's kind of hard to undo that. So we left them alone. But that was basically a stock build, as was the Mystique Mustang and the other ones. So what I'm running into now, and this is fine, I mean, it's nothing I'm against, is as I'm building the 68 Fastback, and we're reaching into different territory. So putting in the Coyote engine and the 6R80 transmission, that's a whole different kind of environment. And not that I've done custom work before, but I've not done this type of custom work before. So I'm learning some of this as I go, and I'm also learning that there are a lot of things that people don't, how do I say, they may not share or express on custom builds. So if you watch other builders, they probably skip over a lot of stuff. They'll show you something and they say, oh, we put in the engine, boom, great, that looks great. What they don't tell you is they had to do X, Y, and Z to make it fit. So it's somewhat misleading in a sense, and I don't blame them for doing that. They're just trying to show what they can maybe do or build or show off or whatever. And I try to show the details, what's going on, why we're doing this and that and the other. Excuse me. And as I always say, test fit, test fit, test fit. And that continues on even as I'm building this car. So, I had to customize the AC unit. I had to move it over to make room for the lines to get around the car. Now, there was different ways I could have done that, and I chose a simple route of just moving the opening. Also, I had to make my own tranny tunnel, because the factory tunnel, you can or could have used it, but it would have been an awkward thing, and it also would have had a hole in it. And because we're doing other custom work, it didn't make sense to do, modify that original tunnel. So I made my own transmission tunnel. I also located the shifter in a different spot than where it would have been at the factory. Backed it up and put it somewhere comfortable for the operator of the car. I worked on the gas pedal, because it's a drive-by-wire system. I modified or made my own bracket to support the gas pedal. And all of this is just one thing, after another. And it's fine. It's the way it works. I'd rather show people these things than for somebody to go in blind and say, oh, well, this isn't going to work, I quit. Now, the latest thing that I'm doing, as I'm test fitting and getting ready to do more, say, disassembly, I put on the Holley fuel injection system today, because I wanted to see if the hood was going to clear. Because eventually it's going to have a hood on it. And talking with the owner, we had wanted to put in the turn signal hood like I did on Jade. And I thought, we can try that. I don't know if it'll work or not, because I don't know about this system. So I ended up, I'm gonna post some pictures here in just a second. I ended up putting that all together today, a loose assembly of all that, and I screwed up. And I didn't want to have everything bolted together tight, because you end up having you may have problems later. So I'm not ready to assemble all of these pieces and make them, final assembly. So there's what I did wrong. I selected the wrong picture. Here we go. So the to see how much clearance there was going to be between the top of the intake and the fenders, and there isn't. There is no clearance, and I was kind of, I won't say surprised, but I guess in a sense disappointed, because I was really hoping that we could put the stock hood on. So I'm going to upload these pictures here in just a second, like I said. But I put all that together, and it looks nice. It really does. Let me see if this is going to work. There we go. I'll be honest, my computer was acting up earlier today. I had to reboot it all because it was not accepting the camera or my microphone. And it was like 15 minutes ago, I had to reboot the computer. So I was like, I hope this works. So anyway, I put all that stuff together, and it's still chugging along here. I need to get a new laptop. That's the issue. I need to get a new laptop. So it looks like we're not going to be able to use that turn signal hood. And I was starting to research other options. Like, I know they make an Eleanor. I hate to say the Eleanor style. I know they make an Eleanor style hood, but apparently that hood is for like the extended nose. You know, the long version of these cars, and that's just not going to work. So here I'll set up this picture while I'm doing these others. So there you can see the intake, and that hood. I looked like a Dynacorn website. I found one from Pacific Customs, one from Top Flight, but they're all the extended one. They have the long nose on the car, and that's not what we're doing. So that's how much is sticking up above the fenders, and this is my rough guesstimate is about 4 inches of clearance is going to be needed to clear that section. So I posted this on. You probably saw it on YouTube, and you may have seen it on my Facebook feed and on Instagram. And the the feedback has been. Okay. I got one too many pictures. The feedback has been, put on a hood scoop, put on the Eleanor style hood, and the other one was just cut it open, just make a cutout. And so here's the other picture I was going to show you. So this is it's a pretty bulky intake system, and I'm just kind of like, well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what me and the owner may want to do in this instance. So that's right now. If you have any suggestions on that, that is somewhat of a priority, because I'm going to have to get all the body work together to make sure it all works. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, test fitting that. And I'm not against cutting it out. I think it'd look kind of cool to show the intake sticking up, above the hood. If that's what we have to do, it's what we have to do. Anyway, let me get started with checking in, see who's here tonight. And the first one in is Terry Keithley. He says, good, I'm going to guess evening, everyone. Please hit a thumbs up and like for button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry and Biddy and the cats. Thank you to all of you. Glad you're here, Terry. Dave Tyson, evening all, evening Dave. And you also get a bell if you show up, so that's part of the reward system. Steve Reed, hello Barry and everyone, hope doing well. It's been hot here, 114 overall temperature. Don't forget to leave thumbs up for Barry. That's in Kentucky, 114. That's crazy. But you can keep it up there. I don't want it down here. We've been like high 80s today. It's been overcast the whole day, so yeah. Jerry checking in. Good evening from Middle Tennessee to all. Yes, thumbs up for Barry. Thank you. I'm getting my hat crooked here. Look like I'm out of sorts. Roger, Hindsight 6'7", greetings from next door. Greetings, Raj. Glad you checked in. Robert's checking in. Evening all. 100 plus until mid-September now. The Queen is in Maui and going to Ohio after that, so she gets away from the heat. Well, by the sounds of it, it may be hot up there too. Glad you're here, Robert. Travis, good evening all. Good evening, sir. One of my top patrons. Troy Justin, good evening from coastal Georgia. I hope everyone had a productive week. I hope so too. And as I was, some things I wanted to talk about with the exhaust as well, whenever we get a little further down, talk about the Mustang and production or productivity. Dawn's Manufacturing, hello everyone from 80 degree PDX. Honeydews today. Oh, there's always that, isn't there? Glad you're here, Dawn. Pat Attic, good evening from Pennsylvania. Evening, Pat. Glad you're here. Or PA, it could be your initials. Maybe I'm just saying PA because it's Pat Attic. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing good. Thank you, Nandu, and likewise. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. And we have another David, David Wright. Good evening, all from soggy Northwest Indiana. Yeah, we've been getting that way a little bit here in Georgia. In fact, it's thundering outside right now, getting ready to rain on us again, which is okay. I'm not complaining. Julian, good evening, Barry. Good evening, Julian. Welcome. James, my Mustang Garage. Good evening, everyone. Hello, James. Hope all is going well with you. I know we've had some conversations, and I hope things are on the plus side for you right now. Dave Conville, good evening, all. Good evening, Dave. And we have TJ. Welcome, TJ. Glad you're here. Get that first. Question, what's the latest on the Falcon engine? Good evening, all. Barry the Metal Whisperer. Appreciate you. TJ, East Dublin, Georgia. Currently, the Falcon engine is sitting right there. I talked about this a little bit last week. I know that I'm going to have to get that machined, and I've been debating on whether it's going to end up a stroker engine or not. Haven't decided yet. However, I did take the 67 block to the machine shop to get it taken care of, because that's the one that had the busted cylinder in it. It had a frozen cylinder in it, and the guy bashed it to get it out and destroyed the piston, and it had a little bit of rust on the cylinder wall. So I took it up to the machine shop I guess it's been a week ago, I think, and haven't heard from them yet. So once that one gets done, if it can be saved, or even if it has to be machine 60 over, I don't care. That's fine. I'm gonna assemble that one. I have the heads and the crankshaft and everything from the engine when it was taken apart. And the thing is, those things are starting to accumulate. Like, over there is the Falcon engine, and the crankshaft and the pistons are laying around, and I have the different heads for that, and I have just engine parts starting to pile up in different locations. So what I want to do is get the 67 built, get it assembled, put it on a stand, and push it aside so it's out of the way, and eventually we'll end up hopefully back in the 67. But that's the status on those at the moment. And also, I will say this, since you brought this up and I'm talking about the 67, I am looking at maybe getting all the parts together for the 67 to become a fastback. Now, the 67 is my car. And I probably would end up, I think, putting it all together to eventually sell. I don't think I would finish it to drive, because I have the 69 Mach 1. But I'm looking at getting all the parts for the 67 to become a fastback. So if somebody's watching this and thinking about that somewhere down the road, I may have a car that I'm going to put together. It'll be a coupe turned into a fastback, and maybe that'll be available sometime in the future. So anyway, just a side note on that. Hope that answers your question. Jerry says, test fitting. I'm adding on to my shop and learning how to frame a structure. While it's like test fitting a car, I guess if I was experienced in framing, it would go better. Yeah. I know that anytime I do something like that, it's a lot of me. I make my own drawings, as I've talked about it before. I don't know if I showed. I'm fixing my camper. We have water damage, and I made a series of drawings on that and what I needed to do to get everything to fit right. So that's one of the biggest things for me, is like even this space here, this garage. Before Roger helped me build it, I had to get a permit and approval, so I had to do all the drawings for it and all that sort of thing. And that helps, obviously, to have those measurements and plans. But once you start going, experience does help a lot in the process. Dawn says, may have to consider a low-profile intake. And that is a thought, and that is something that will be considered, I'm sure. But for the moment, I'm working with what is here and provided. And, we didn't know, honestly, that was going to stick up higher than the hood. And I don't know what options we're going to have at this point. Like I said, I'm not against cutting a hole in the hood. It doesn't bother me one bit. I'll cut a hole in anything. Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry. Looking forward to tonight's show. Thank you, Richard. Dave Tyson. How about a 429 hood? That's a thought. Give you a bell for that thought. That is, I mean, that's a possibility. We'll have to look at that. And also, Troy says, what about installing the 429 CJ style scoop? And you know what's funny about that? And I understand what you're saying. I actually had, a 68 hood that I got with Jade that I sold to a buddy of mine that had the 429 hood scoop on it. Didn't have the hole in the hood, but somebody had fiberglassed a scoop onto it. And I don't even know if that's going to be tall enough, because that scoop is only on the one I had was only about that tall. Maybe I'll have to get that hood back off of my buddy and just to set it on there and see what happens. Jerry says, put a supercharger on the engine. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that's a possibility, but I don't think that's the route we're going. David says a shaker style hood would look cool. I think it just might look cool, because the shape of that is centered in the hood or centered on the engine, let's say. And if you did a cutout and just smooth it up, and you can even trim it out with something, it might look kind of cool. It really, I may lean that way. Now, I still don't think we could put the turn signal hood in it. I don't think that would work. I think it would have to be a smooth hood and not have the turn signals, because now it's getting too complicated. And I think those lights would be in a bad spot. So it is something we'll look at. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. It is time for a Whipple. Oh, yeah. Dawn says to Richard, I agree. I would love for Fango to look as stock as possible. Yeah, I get that. I do. PW Talo, hi from Texas. Hello, PW. I'll just go with that because that's all it lets me see is at PW Talo. So I don't know if it's Taylor, but welcome. Glad you're here. Hey, Matt Go Man. Hello, everyone. Hello, sir. Glad you're here. Hope all is well. Okay, so Paul. Got it. Paul from Texas. Thank you, Paul. Julian, if you get the Falcon engine up to me, I'll machine it for you in my spare time. Well, that may be an option. You need to email me your address again so I can tell where you're at. You never know. James says the hood does crown up in the middle. You could take a junk hood, even if the hood doesn't have turn signals but still has the same inner structure. You could hack it open to see how far up. Yeah, how far up you are. Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't know. I'm trying to think what I have on hand. I have two hoods that are, one's a shaker and one I think is a smooth hood. Or not a shaker, I mean a turn signal hood. And I think the other one is a smooth hood. But that is definitely a consideration. I even thought about, and I don't really want to do this, but I thought about it briefly. I have the hood from the Cobra Jet, which is totally junk. Totally junk. But it would make really good wall art somewhere. And I thought about, if I set that hood on just to get it close, and then cut it up. But I just can't make myself do it. I would rather cut up a regular hood, like you're saying, to see how it would fit. And that it may come down to that. it may come down to a some sort of like a hood scoop. You know, I was thinking even like the Camaro, you know, the cowl induction hood. It would almost, you could almost do like a reverse version of that, where it's a wide scoop up over the top of the engine. But you know, we're going to have to research that more and more to see what's available and what options there are. Matt Gomez says, I like a teardrop hood scoop. Yeah, I guess that could work. Could. I was trying, like I said, the engine is in a fixed spot. It can only go so high, or you know, sit where it's at. It can't go any higher. It can't go any lower. You run into problems with the cross member and the steering and all that stuff, so you can't go lower for sure. And I'd have to. I've thought about I've got some big pieces of cardboard, and maybe I'll take some of that and just cut it up and make a copy of a hood from cardboard, in effect, and just set it on there to see what it would look like with a hole cut in it, and then see what kind of height you might have to come up with if there was a scoop option. So I may have to do that. I know I have some big pieces of cardboard, you know, hang on to this stuff just for this reason. So I may have to do that. That may be next up on my agenda. Julian says South Buckeye Land. Don't say you've never seen a Buckeye. Well, yeah. I had some Buckeye candy like a few months ago from a chocolate shop in Pennsylvania. So South Buckeye Land, you never know, honestly. You never know. I mean, if I was going to make it a stroker and you could figure all that out, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Dave Tyson, what is on the floor behind you? Wait. Sorry. What is on the floor behind me? Over here? That is some cowl panels. There's 3 cowl panels there. 2 of them are from a 66 Mustang, and that is a new 65 cowl that I made look like a 66 cowl. And I have a video I'm going to make on that, or, you know, I've already got the video. A guy asked me to modify that. And so it took me a few hours to cut pieces out of the original cowl and weld them into the Dynacorn cowl. So, and then over here, that's steering column for the Mustang. That's the factory intake manifold, and that was the box that held the headers. And then over here's pieces and parts. No, I'm sorry. I had a phone call that I'm going to have to skip. There's pieces and parts for the intake assembly. So, Michael, I'm going to run into the same problem in my 65 car. I was thinking about a Trans Am style. That Trans Am, I'd have to look into that and see what that looks like. Pardon me for 1 second, as I had a phone call from my future daughter-in-law, and I had to put it on voicemail. So just give me 1 second. I'm just going to text her to let her know. Oh. Okay, sorry. If my future daughter-in-law calls me, that means it could be something serious. So I wanted to make sure it was nothing. All right, so the Trans Am style, okay. I'd have to look at that and see what that looks like. James, could do a Corvette center hump and taper off to the rear since the rear is much lower. Yeah, that's a thought. That is a thought. Now we have Paul, just testing my new handle for YouTube. Okay. Paul Taylor, I'm guessing. He's experimenting with his username. Okay. I see you got a couple of Mustangs in your thumbnail. That's cool. Nice to see that. Julian says, I sent you the real Buckeyes. Yes, I remember. I remember you did. And I appreciate that. They were awfully crunchy, though, and didn't taste very good. I like the chocolate ones I got from the chocolate shop much better. Michael Pagliarini, shaker hood, fuel injection on the air gap intake. Fuel injection on the air gap intake. Okay. I'm a little is that what you're thinking for yours? Because you said you're going to run into the same problem. Travis, maybe one of the hoods you have you'll need to replace anyways. Use it and cut it up. Yeah, that is a definite consideration. I was actually creating a list of sheet metal that I'm going to get, or hopefully get, for that 67 project. And I think I already have a hood on there, but I'll have to look and see. Because I do have one I could probably cut up and not really feel bad about it. And also I've seen hoods show up on Marketplace. So maybe one of those could pop up and be, cut up as well. But I think right now the easy out is just to take that big piece of cardboard and it would be simple to make a copy of the dimensions. I could just lay a hood out and just trace it, cut it out, and start playing with the shape and the opening. So it'll come. But it's one of those things. As I said, you have to consider all of the things that interact. Another thing that I wanted to mention, I was showing the wiring harness in the previous video and picking spots for that to go. And well, let me show you what Roger made for me. Let me show you real quick. So one of the thoughts was to put the fuse block basically behind where the air intake was coming off the cowl, or the air outlet, let's say, coming off the cowl. So this one's a little crusty. I know the cable is shot. This thing is just an ugly part right now. It's got some broken ribs on the inside. Okay, so this is just meant to be for looks and see how things fit. Well, if you'll notice, you've got the inner baffle, or the inner, butterfly, whatever you want to label it. So when you want air, you pull the cable and it opens it up and lets air flow. Well, they make this is, I don't know, I don't think I have a tape measure laying up here. This is about, 5 or 6 inches long. And when you open up the butterfly, it comes down to somewhere in this area, roughly. And I was thinking, why couldn't I shorten this up? Or probably have to get a new one, because this thing's pretty rough. Like, literally, it's just falling apart. And we don't want that. So I found on Mustang Forum, you can 3D print these. Or not this, but you can 3D print a new base. So Roger printed one up. He got the plans, and he printed one up for me. So basically, if you look, this is, I don't know how we can see all the shape of it. It's a direct copy, but it's also made on a taper. It's not round, like you can't just come in like this. You have to put it at an angle. So it's designed actually to be a steeper angle than what is here, and you slide it up and replace the bottom section. So I am looking at this to see how far up I can cut this and make this collar, an add-on. And if it works, and we may play with this a little bit, but if it works, then get a new one that's not busted up, in good shape, and has a working cable. This thing's like don't know if you can see all the junk holding this together. There's like wires and, junk. And then take that one and shorten it. Now, this is just experimental because the idea of putting that fuse block is just one idea. It could end up somewhere else completely, but it's things to consider. As I said, whenever you're putting these cars together from pieces and parts, you need to have an end game. Another idea that somebody suggested, and I've thought about it a little bit, and I don't know if there's room. Somebody had said in the Bronco 2, I think it was, that they had a fuse block that you could, how do I put it? It had like a trap door. So like the fuse block was underneath the dash, and it had a door that held it. And if you needed to access it, it would rotate down, and you could see the fuse block. Now, I've not seen one of these. I don't know if I guess they exist. I don't know. But yeah, just the idea that you could take and just pivot it up and bring it down underneath somewhere. That's not a bad idea either. So I like that I'm getting ideas from other people and suggestions, because that's how we come up with, a good plan for what's going to be, a greater vehicle, let's say. But that's something else that I'm going to consider is is there space that it can just pivot up and hide behind the dash? So just an idea, The other thing I wanted to talk about was the on the exhaust on the Mustang. And I posted the video about it, and I talked about the muffler and the complications of trying to get through all the suspension. I have seen pictures where people have made it work, but it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And so, talking with the owner, I think we're going to go with the downturns. Simple and effective. And it cleans up everything underneath, because if you ever do need to do some maintenance, that just eliminates some of the complications. So just downturns, I like it. I think it's a great idea, and it really simplifies the process. Let's go back here. James, the front of the 6970 Mustang hood already has a center hump about the width of the Coyote intake. Yeah, it does in a sense, but it's not that big. I need 4 inches. I need 4 inches to get above the fenders, minimum. That's how high that sits up. So, Annette, hi Barry, it's been a while. How are you? Well, I'm glad you're back, Annette. Good to see you. Hope all is well, or at least see your thumbnail. I'm doing pretty good. Staying busy. I think you're up in New York, I think is where I want to say. So, hope things are going well in your area. David, 3D printed, what a good idea. Yeah. Now, I don't know how hard it would be to 3D print that whole canister. Roger said on his 3D printer, this took I think he said 28 hours. So if you expand that to a lot more, it might take 2 weeks. I don't know. But I don't think it's a route we're going to take as far as that goes. I'd rather take one and customize, shorten it, and make it work. But we'll see, because I'm not committed yet to that space now that I've thought about the fold down fuse panel thing. So that's another option. Jerry says, I've been learning about 3D printing, unlimited possibilities. That is the truth. And let me tell you this. Everything we've seen, like here, in the 3D printed world, is plastics. When I was still working at Delta, they were doing metal 3D printing. And it was absolutely amazing what they could make with metal. And it's hard for my brain to even think about that they were literally dots of molten metal creating pieces and parts. In fact, they 3D printed me a shop, like when I retired, they printed me a little like paperweight with my information on it, and it's 3D printed, and I'm like, holy cow, if that were to be made as a production, it would probably be thousands of dollars to make that thing, and they just did it just because they wanted to. I'm like, I'll take it. I appreciate it. Robert, hinged fuse panel been done on various cars. I'm sure it has. I just need to see the see what availability I have for where it would fit. I'm pretty confident we're not going to have like a traditional console in this car, or any console. I don't think, and that area could be part of that location. So, and it'll come. Like I said, this is why we talk about things and get things moving in a direction. Rick Gain here. Glad you're here, Rick. Hope all is well. I know you had some surgery Friday, so I hope you're recovering from that. Repurpose the ashtray into a fuse block, pull it out, and it's right there. That is a thought. On this, in this case, the factory fuse block is like that big. It's a little square that just is semi-useless in my opinion. The new one from American Auto Wire, the whole assembly is about that big, so it would have to like be on a track to slide in and out, but it would not be able to stand upright. It would have to sit sideways, I think, to be used in the ashtray slot. And then you have to allow for the wires that are attached to the back to collapse somewhere. So that's a thought, though. I mean, it's a great idea to consider, but I'm just processing it as I go, where the wires go and how much movement can you get out of it. So it's a good idea. Pat Attic, our 94 Explorer has a fuse panel door like that. I will send you a pic later. Okay. Thank you for that. Travis, interesting that you'll be using turn downs. Can you think of downsides to using them? Not really. Not really. And the way I look at it, first of all, the car's going to get raced, and I'm not against trying to finish it out the back, but I look at it. I like to look at things from a maintenance standpoint or a repair standpoint, and the less you have to get out of your way to do something, the better off you are, or the less you have to fight with things. And this really would simplify the whole process and just let it be done. So I think it'd be nice, simple. Annette says, "Oh, Boston. Well, I was close. I'm sorry for saying New York, but northeastward. How about that?" Vacationing in Raleigh right now. That sounds lovely. I hope it's not raining there. Auto Dynamics, hey Barry, what about a Super Snake Eleanor hood or Eleanor scoop or hood? I'll have to look at those and see what's available. Or we're in the feeling out phase at the moment. Robert, I'm still using an old 3D printer. When I get a new and larger one, I can borrow 3D scanners from a friend to scan and design stuff. There you go. Auto Dynamics, what about buying the Mustang Fear bump out located in the kick panel? I'm going to land mine upper left firewall, but I have no fresh air vent. It's not needed. Maybe you can talk to your owner. I looked at that bump out right there where you're talking about, and the owner wants to have fresh air. He wants to, and that's fine. I'm not against that at all. And I agree. I would rather have the fresh air as well. Even though I have cars that have air conditioning, I personally would rather have air coming through the windows or through vents. That's just the way I am. But I've thought about that as well, that bump out. I know they sell something where you can modify it and put it out there. But I don't know you run into a few things like, you're going to have a kick panel. The trim panel covers up that metal kick panel area. And so if you're going to do something with fuses, you got to pull that kick panel out, the cover, to get access to it. Or if you put it up higher, now it's up behind the dash and you can't see it. I'm trying to look at this from the standpoint of what is an easy location with accessibility that, if needed, can be, worked on, change fuses. And this is why, even as I'm going through the exhaust, the brake, the pedals, all these things, I try to think about it from the next thing. Like, if I have to take this apart, how hard is it going to be to get this apart? I don't want to have to cut the car in half to change something or fix something. So I try to think of it also from a maintenance standpoint. So anyway, that's just one of the thoughts. And I realize what you're saying, but I don't know that's what we're looking for. Michael says Painless may offer a hinged fuse box. They might. We're using American Auto Wire, but I mean, I can make my own kind of hinge system or whatever. That's really not that hard, but something to think about. Auto Dynamics, or better yet, use another fresh air box, possibly from another vehicle that's smaller, such as a Camaro or other manufacturer. That's a thought too. That is a thought. I think I have a box. I'd have to look, because I have the Camaro out here, and I know I have a bunch of parts from it. I'd have to scavenge through all of them and see if I have. But that's a good idea. I appreciate that idea. Troy says, I know you have a modified suspension under 68, but could the exhaust be right out the sides in front of the tires? Could is a possibility. I would have to look at it more once I get the, because like right now the mufflers that I'm using as a demonstration are the 3-inch MagnaFlows, and we can't use that MagnaFlow exhaust. So I don't think it's, well, and of course it's 3-inch, right? So I think we're gonna have to come up with another set of mufflers, 2.5-inch inlet outlet, and see how those play out dimensionally. So like the 3-inch, I don't want to modify something to make those work. And then if the owner decides to sell that system to somebody else, or if I end up buying it from him as part of my, projects, and maybe that ends up on one of mine, the 69 or something. I don't know yet, but I don't want to separate that system. I want to keep it all together. So I think we need to find another set of 2.5-inch mufflers, which isn't hard. I mean, they're out there. And then look at how hard of a turn it would be. Like, can I get them far enough forward that the turn is not over 90 degrees? Because you don't want a super hard turn coming out just to get it out in front of the tire. But it's something to consider. So, and we will look into that. Allie, 92992. Welcome, Allie. Do you have any room, or have the room between the firewall and the intake to flip the intake 180 degrees? No. No, that won't work. That would put basically the intake, the throttle body, into the firewall and into the cowl and into the transmission. No, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. Sorry, let me get some coffee because throat's getting rough. Auto Dynamics, if you're talking about the plastic, man, you can make a access door and make it OEM style accessibility. Yeah, I get that. I'd have to figure out Yeah, I'll think that over. I will. That's a great idea. I'll think that over. Pat Attic, if you're mounting the battery in the trunk, why not put the fuse box in there somewhere? That is another thought. And I don't know we're committed to where the battery is going to be just yet. However, my thoughts on, and this may be trivial, I don't know. My thoughts are, because I don't know the parameters of the American Auto Wire system. So let's just say it has a bundle, like there's 25 wires that are coming out of the back of this thing. I don't know exactly how long they are. And so I don't want to add length to those wires. I don't want to do that. Like if I put the fuse block all the way in the back, I have to get that wiring all the way to the front for the dash and the headlights and all these different things. And I don't know I don't want to do that. I don't want to add wire to the system. That also could cause more problems than we want to deal with. Anytime you splice wires together or stuff like that, and I don't want it to get overly complicated. But that is a consideration that it could go back there. Another thought somebody had suggested was, being that we're not going to have a back seat in this car, I feel like I'll be making some sort of a platform back there, like the Shelby. I think the Shelby has some sort of a platform system, from what I've heard. So there may end up being a platform system behind the driver's seat, or behind the driver area, and it's possible. And again, I need to check the wire length. That could end up back there behind the seat. But again, access. How do you get to it? How do you open it? How do you find the fuses? Those sorts of things need to be considered as well. So this is why I like to talk about this stuff and get ideas from people that are doing all this stuff. Rick, you could also put the fuse block in the glove compartment. That is also a very good consideration. It is. And I'd have to look at, I know that, the glove box is semi-useful on these cars. And it may end up that it would make sense to build a box that would hold the fuse block. But I've thought about that as well. And I don't know that I want to take up that space just yet, or do away with the glove box itself. Because I think on those cars, I'm trying to remember now, I think when you open it, like the early cars, it had a cardboard insert. And then I think on the later ones, the 68s, it was part of the door, if I remember correctly. And so you'd have to eliminate that whole box from being used. Annette says, have you ever used carbon fiber on a build, maybe gauge cluster, bezel, or center console? I have not, because I just don't have the capabilities. I've worked with fiberglass. I've made stuff out of fiberglass before. I'll say this, my aircraft background, I have experience and I know how to use composites. So I can make stuff from composites like that. However, let's say, I'll just give you an example. So let's say you wanted to make a container for this, and it wanted to fit this perfectly, right? I know this is pretty simple. I don't have anything that's a better example right in my hands. But let's just say you wanted to make a perfect mold of this. Whenever you would want to make something for this to fit into perfectly, you have to make a reverse. Let's say you make a mold, and then to make the carbon fiber version, you have to have that mold to create a second mold, in effect. So whenever you try to make something out of a composite material, you have to have something to start from, meaning like a two-section mold that you would compress it between. And then also, I know this is kind of off of where we're going, but like when I was in aircraft maintenance school, we had one of our projects we had to make was a 3-binder notebook binder, like a 3-ring binder. So whenever you make those things, we would have to take it and put it into layers of material. So you'd have like carbon fiber and fiberglass and I forget what the other material was. And you would compress these in a vacuum furnace. So what happens is you would put these in a plastic bag, put a vacuum furnace or vacuum on it, and it would suck down all of the air out of that material and compress it flat, and then you would bake it. And it would now give you an air-free solid material. So whenever you try to make something out of a carbon fiber or something like that, you need to have a way to get that vacuum system to pull all the air out of the resins, and then a way to bake it, and also to maintain a shape. So it's rather complicated, and I know I may not be explaining it very well, but you have to have a shape to build two, or two halves of the same shape to put it between, compress it, squeeze out all the air, and then bake it at a certain temperature. And so it's not very simple. Now, if you're doing like a fiberglass mold type of thing, you can build something out of wood and layer fiberglass over top of it. And you could do it with carbon fiber too, and just let it kind of dry. But you don't end up with a nice polished, smooth finish. And so it's not simple. So I don't know if that answers the question very well. I have all this knowledge in my head, and sometimes it's hard to relate it to what we're talking about. Robert, live dangerously and skip the fuses, or have faith that everything you do will never fail. Yeah, there you go. Dave Tyson, I don't like the exhaust under auto. Under auto? Under auto. Under the car, you mean? Is that what you're saying? You don't like it under the car? Auto Dynamics, if you use that style muffler, you would use a muffler that has the in and out on the same side. You know, I actually have used those mufflers on my 68 GMC. Those are turnaround mufflers, and I use them on certain models of Mustangs. But that would not, I don't think that's going to help. Ideally, you'd want an inlet on the front and an outlet on the side versus straight out the back. That way you're eliminating that. You're just making a side outlet. I don't know if they make those, but the in and out wouldn't work. The U-turn mufflers, because then it comes back out the other end, and then you're still fighting to get it out the side of the car. I think that's what we're talking about, right? Andy Bayless, there's a YouTube video out on how to make a fiberglass hood by Power Nation. I think you'd be interested in that video. Okay. Thank you, Randy. Ali, does a Borla injection gain you any room? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Otto, another idea is if you're running a center console, you're going to land that fuse box on the side of it and also create an access panel. Yeah, that's the thought too, but I don't think we're going to be having that. At least at this point, I don't think there's going to be a console. Jerry says if you increase the wire length, it may cause impedance problems. And see, that's part of what I'm talking about. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to run that risk of changing the parameters of the wire. You know, if it's rated at this number and you change the length, I know it changes a lot of things, and it could be more of a problem. Dawn Gilly, welcome Dawn. Make a bracket on the side of the column facing down for fuse panel. I mean, that's probably not going to be an option. You know, we're putting in a I Did It stainless steering column, and then that fuse block the whole thing is pretty big. So I don't see there's any room for that. Robert says they do make the in and out the side muffler. See, that's a consideration. There you go. I need to find more information on that. More information. Rick Gain, with all this talk about the fuse box, what about the important thing? Where are you going to put the cup holders? That's a great question. Hold on a second. Being it's a race car, I'm not against having a cup holder in there. And I want to tell you something that I saw a long time ago in a Chevy. It was a Chevy 4x4 truck. And it was a dash-mounted cup holder that was on a swivel. It actually pivoted like it was on a ball. It was a really cool cup holder. It was like a cage. And you could put your drink in it. You'd be off-road and take a turn, and it would swing. The momentum of it would let it stay centered and low. So you never know. Maybe put one of those on the dash. Ice Melter Man, welcome. Do you know of a windshield sealant solution other than that awful butyl soup? I did the windshield area rear glass using CRL and tore it out because I thought the CRL didn't cure. Not really. I don't have a good answer on that. Like on the cars that I've done, they have the rubber gaskets in them, and then you put in some sealant with that. But I don't know. The other option is urethane, and the challenge with using urethane on cars like these is getting the glass to stay at the correct location. So on a modern car, modern vehicles, they have urethane that holds the glass in. And it is probably some of the toughest material on the planet. But that urethane I use on modern cars is meant to use with the glass, because the glass is technically part of your structure of the car. Like on a windshield frame, that urethane holds the glass in there, and it reinforces or strengthens the metal parts. So, but whenever you try to put it in, you have to have it a certain height, certain thickness, and you couldn't really do that with these cars because it just doesn't work well. Butyl rope. Well, I mean, they do. I've used butyl rope. You're saying, so that was instead of butyl soup, you're saying butyl rope. I mean, that's all I've used that before, but I don't know what is CRL. I don't know what you got. You got me on CRL. I don't know what CRL is. But yeah, the butyl tape, I've used that many times. I haven't had a problem with it. The rope, butyl tape. I haven't had a problem with it myself, but I've done a bunch of these. Autodynamics, just want to give you a shout out that you've inspired me after watching a channel in your fabrication engineering background on my 68 Eleanor, which you follow me on Instagram. Okay. Thank you for that. And my approach with these type of builds, you have to look at it from an engineer point of view and say, is there a better way, or what I call 1+ method than original? I get it. That makes perfect sense. And that's the way I look at it too. I'm like, I can't just, like somebody said, weld the exhaust on, or, and don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I need to know if I can get it apart. I need to know if there's going to be this, that, or the other. It's going to be interfering with it at some point. Robert, butyl doesn't set, it stays soft. You could fill the gap with urethane, but you will need the primer for the glass and the steel, but it will be a bear to remove in the future. Yeah, the urethane is tough stuff. It is tough stuff. Okay, so Iceman CRL being the caulk sealant. Yeah, I've probably not used that. What year car are you referring to? I guess I'm trying to think what you may be working on because, um, the Mustangs 68 and back at least have the 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 rubber, if I remember correctly. So it must be a later model car. But yeah, the Butyl, it works, and that's why they have those stops. Like Robert was saying, it never really gets hard. You put the blocks in at the base of the windshield, so it doesn't slide down. And I mean, it never like melts, but it just stays kind of in a soft environment. But I've never seen it like run or fall apart. But you put those blocks at the base of the windshield so it stays up. Ice melter, I know butyl stayed pliable, but I had no idea it didn't dry at all. Okay. And he says 65 Mustang, it's sold on CJ Pony. I have the gasket too. Okay. So what I've done, I did a video on putting a windshield in the 68 on Jade. You're talking about the butyl goes around the edge. Yeah. I did a video on putting the windshield and back glass in Jade, and I know what you're talking about with that sealant. But yeah, it's meant to stay soft. Robert, I don't plan on sealing that gap up on mine as it will likely never see rain again, and not sure it needs wipers. Yeah, that's the probably more truthful than anything. We all worry about this stuff, and I get it. I understand where we're coming from, but like, how many times am I going to drive these cars in any kind of rain, unless it just happens after you returning from a car show or something? Because these aren't daily drivers. We take them to car shows, we take them to events, but I think we get carried away with it, as I've said before, with all the rust inhibitors and all those things that we do, which is fine. But they didn't even undercoat or prime the inside of the cowl, or half the car was just left in raw metal, and it still lasted, depending on what state you're in, decades. Autodynamics, when you use urethane, it becomes more structural as opposed to the butyl. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Dawn says you got to have wipers and watertight. I get it. I'm not against that. I know you drive your car a lot. And where you're at, you definitely need to have wipers and watertight. I agree. Getting close. Well, we're already past the time that I would normally go. One other thing that I'm looking at doing, and I haven't really talked about it too much, the wiring harness for the headlights and in the engine bay. There's holes in the dash or firewall for those. I showed it in the video. Talked about the 68 that I have outside. Showed those areas, and somebody suggested put them on the underside of the aprons. Move those wires outboard and come through the firewall on the outside and close off those other areas. And that's a good thought. It would clean up the engine bay, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up doing that as well. So just again, ideas that are coming from followers and different areas. Robert says rain doesn't just happen here. You will know a few days in advance if it may rain, and everyone will be talking about it, hoping they get some. Yeah. Okay. We've been at an hour and 10 minutes. I'm probably going to end up wrapping up here in just a second. I want to ask everybody, if you're not already following me on Patreon, if you're interested, there's links on all my videos to be on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, I put the videos on that I put on YouTube. I may do some variation of them, but on Patreon, there's no commercials. There's no ads. There's nothing. And so it benefits me more for somebody to be on Patreon than it does on YouTube. Right now, I've said it before, the YouTube just continues to go down and down and down, and it makes it's very frustrating from that standpoint. And I really am surprised. Like, I posted a video Saturday on YouTube, and I've got 70 some thousand, followers on my YouTube channel. And just to give you some insight, it just doesn't make any sense to me that with that many followers, that I only have like limited views on my videos. Now, granted, I'd rather have people watching them on Patreon. I'd rather they go that route. But like that video that I just did on Saturday, posted on Saturday, it only has like, well, let me see if it even says it right. It's saying 700. Let me double check. It said 700 views on it. Yeah, well, right now it says 765 views. And so what I don't get is I've got 70,000 followers, and I'm barely getting 800 views or 1,000 views on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this, go watch some of the videos. Just watch them. I know there's ads on there, and I hate it that there's ads. But that's why I'd rather be just on Patreon. Can be done with it. Oh. So Paul sent me a super sticker. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much. I really do. But anyway, look at my Patreon, and if you're interested, by all means, sign up and join. Robert says subs does not equal views, and most viewers are not subbed. Yeah, and that's just crazy about it. Even though I have 70,000 subscribers, personally, I want to have 70,000 views, but I don't. So anyway, I'll get off my little step stool now, but that'll be it for tonight's video or tonight's stream. I'll be back next Monday. That'll be August, and we'll have another chat, see how things are going. But for now, that'll be it. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.
Just give me something to start with. A little rest is fine. I'll give you many hours, a minute at a time. I don't care where you came from, but I want you to know I may have to start over. I'm learning as I go. When I'm done, I'll be the one to take you down the road. We'll leave behind our troubles, and everyone will know.